Nobel Prize in Medicine for the biological clock. Life on Earth is adapted to the rotation of our planet. Most living organisms anticipate and adapt to daily changes in the environment. During the 18th century, the astronomer Jacques de Ortous de Mairan studied mimosa plants, and found that the leaves opened towards the sun during daytime and closed at dusk. He wondered what would happen if the plant was placed in constant darkness. He found that independent of daily sunlight the leaves continued to follow their normal daily oscillation. Plants seemed to have their own biological clock. Other researchers found that not only plants, but animals and humans also, have an internal, biological clock that helps to adapt the fluctuations of the day and to regulate the rhythm of the day. With exquisite precision, our inner clock adapts our physiology to the dramatically different phases of the day. This regular adaptation is referred as the circadian rhythm, originating from the Latin word circa meaning around and dies meaning day. The clock regulates critical functions such as behavior, hormone levels, sleep, body temperature and metabolism. Our well-being is affected when there is a temporary mismatch between our external environment and this internal biological clock. This is the reason for jet lag, when we travel across several time zones. There are also indications that chronic misalignment between our lifestyle and the rhythm dictated by our inner timekeeper is associated with increased risk for various diseases. How our internal circadian biological clock worked remained a mystery for years. During the 1970s, Seymour Benzer and his student Ronald Knipke identified a gene that controls the circadian rhythm and demonstrated that mutations in this gene disrupted the circadian clock. They named this gene period. But how could this gene influence the circadian rhythm? This year's Nobel Laureates, Jeffrey C. Hall, Michael Rosbash and Michael W. Young were able to peek inside our biological clock and explained its inner workings. Their discoveries explain how plants, animals and humans adapt their biological rhythm so that it is synchronized with the Earth's revolutions. The Nobel Assembly at Karolinska Institute has decided to award the 2017 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine jointly to Jeffrey C. Hall, Michael Rosbash and Michael W. Young for their discoveries of molecular mechanisms controlling the circadian rhythm. The Nobel laureates isolated a gene that controls the normal daily biological rhythm. They showed that this gene encodes a protein that accumulates in the cell during the night, and is then degraded during the day. They also identified an additional protein component of this machinery, exposing the mechanism governing the self-sustaining clockwork inside the cell. In 1984, Jeffrey Hall and Michael Rosbash, working in close collaboration at Brandeis University in Boston, and Michael Young at the Rockefeller University in New York, succeeded in isolating the period gene. In 1994 Michael Young discovered a second clock gene, encoding the protein that was required for a normal circadian rhythm. In elegant work, he showed that the two proteins enter the cell nucleus, and block the period gene activity, to close the inhibitory feedback loop. Such a regulatory feedback mechanism explained the oscillation of cellular protein levels. The Nobel laureates identified additional proteins required for the activation of the period gene, as well as for the mechanism by which light can synchronize the clock, keeping time on our human physiology. The biological clock is involved in many aspects of our complex physiology. We now know that all multicellular organisms, including humans, utilize a similar mechanism to control circadian rhythms. A large proportion of our genes are regulated by the biological clock. A carefully calibrated circadian rhythm adapts our physiology to the different phases of the day with implications for our health and well-being. Thank you.